Okay, so thanks everyone for being here. Um, a lot of people know my book, Ordinary Light, and since it came out in 2023, I've been revising and adding to things. I feel like everything's always a draft, and it takes a few years, even after the book comes out, to finally finish some of the poems or add things in or take them out. So I've adjusted some. Silver Dawn, A Litany for a Concussion, first appeared on the Pitkin Review website page. And it was originally a poem. Um, it was originally a poem to a friend, and then when Bonnie Nish asked us to write about concussion, I adapted it into um, how it felt to have concussion. I knew I'd won the lottery of solitude, delicate chimes, the turquoise of a New Zealand pow shell, an iridescent spectrum of shimmering soprano, lifting me into the heart of characters. A magic realist dimension, a rainforest duet. New stories, a requiem to missing memory. An elegy to the decades that sang euphonies through me. Tangerine, lemon, lime, now sand in the sky, light from an ended star. In a cantata of elevation, sparkly frost on a winter beach transports me home. Lavender tears sing for colors I no longer cantillate, an echo of notes like the scepter of my grandmother's warmth. Icicle tunes unfold along the frozen river, a hymn to changing seasons. I read Dorothy and William Wordsworth's letters, searching for my words, at home in theirs. Winter sun setting in rose, I embrace new ways to effloresce, the fluorescence of imaginary worlds, pulsating between lines. I lay laurels on the podium, blends of harmony in autumn hydrangea, waves of sea blossoms to inner world light. So that's my first one. And now we'll go hear from Lara.
Okay. Okay. So this one kind of follows a lot of Cynthia has a lot of nature themes. And so I was trying to find some of mine that have nature, but also that idea of searching and looking for something through that. Okay, sorry about that, guys. Okay. So this one is called Searching for Self. High up into the mountains, it calls to me, whispering, whispering. Lifting my head, I listen close for the message these hills have for me. Alone in my granite home that surrounds my seeking soul, I hear of fallen times these rocky outcrops have witnessed long before any of us. Times when those that lived here first traveled fields of spun gold they called home. All around me are gifts to lead me on my uncertain path, to guide me with messages only nature can properly impart. All of life's meaning is found among these gnarled stumps and in the small spaces in between. A flash of color draws my eye to petals glimmering in sunny slits. Pieces that flash with sparkles in uneven tempo that creates a silent musical score for the eye to listen to. Within these mountainous walls, I am learning that being alone here can feel like a new beginning, that no company could ever compare to being a guest in the private party thrown by old souls who quietly hold their place in this world. I feel strange, as if suddenly awakened in a dream, only to find it is still playing out as it did as when I slept. I reach down to touch a shiny petal, to stroke its dewy texture and experience the sensation as if a babe learning what its body can do. My fingers are part of me while being removed somehow and expanding further from their nailed points to reach beyond the flowers, meld into the air that covers forest floors, and out into stretch fields that unfurl from mountain bases, as a red carpet laid out for earthly creatures to step upon, like celebrities on display to an adoring sky that follows their every move. Here is where the past can truly fade, where life feels possible again. Each player in this game of life must follow rules intrinsically set eons ago, and now it is my turn. My stage is set, and my cue has been called to advance into the spotlight that has shone, waiting for me, that has finally made its presence known. Here is where I die a symbolic death of self, the self I can no longer live with, the self that follows me like a broken shadow, clinging on in jagged pieces of regret and remorse. Here is where the mountains cut into me, slicing through the dead weight I wear like a cloak stapled on tight to my skin. Here is where the flowers fill me up again with vivid colors and textures so I can walk out into life anew. Thank you.
I love that poem so much, Lara.
Thank
The
you.
contrast in it. So my next poem that I feel kind of goes along um, that rhythm of, finding peace in it all is called My Hand on the Altar, and it's from our Goddard MFA program. We had a workshop called Writing from the Body. And right in that workshop, which happened to take place during the pandemic, and it was at a point in the pandemic where I took the pandemic way too intensely. Like I gave up walking outside, I gave up swimming, I gave up way too many things. And I didn't really notice how sacrificing exercise really intensified anxiety. But I feel like this poem is not only about the osteoarthritis in my finger that came out from typing 16 hours a day, but also from the anxiety of not being able to go to regular doctor's appointment. Like you used to be able to walk to the clinic at any time of the day and be seen within an hour or two in Canada, in Vancouver. During the pandemic, you could walk to the clinic every single day for 12 days and be turned away because of the pandemic emergency and the need to treat that. So um, I had just, fallen, carrying my groceries up the staircase, and I was sanitizing everything way too much, and I got sanitizer in a cut. And then the osteoarthritis lump came out, and I was like, oh, what if it's infected? And I looked online, and of course, online tells you you can die in 5 weeks if that's an infection. I'm like, oh, well, I better go to the doctor then. And so this poem was it's partly about dealing with osteoarthritis and exhaustion, but it's also about all the fear around what it could have been. And I called it My Hand on the Altar. It's a little bit tongue-in-cheek. It's a little bit exaggerating my isolation and pain. Um, my hand on the altar. Snow dead tissue. The crick, crick, crick of fingertips in daily task. Snapping in frostbitten numbness. Pulse thrumming through as my heart struggles to hold on to them. Icy winter bleeds through peach roses. Diagnosed with intensifying rheumatoid and osteoarthritis, I watch my once slender fingers knot into swollen knobs like my typist grandmother's. I used to shake fresh snow out of lime-leaf bamboo trees. Now I rest cut tendons, struggling to restore themselves. From overuse of the computer mouse, damage from sanitizing groceries, accidentally, repeatedly in flesh wounds. Tingling, electric, numb. The hospital doctor predicts swollen blue lines are a blood clot. My hand on the altar, having sacrificed 2 years of physiotherapy to stay home, be part of the solution, stop the spread of contagious COVID while we ignore the rest of ourselves. Give up swims, skates, exercise outside the apartment for a myth of martyrdom. Taking the pandemic request to stay home to levels of unnecessary sacrifice. Dehydrated veins pray to outlive the roses, not crumple like the basil leaves I dried to fight infection. Before the confirmation, white blood cell count returned to normal. Inarticulate fingers and a slowed down body pause. Breathe in garden soil. Green veins bulge through wrinkly skin like aging garlic, with bulky shoots beneath beige translucent peel, weirdly wrapped in clothes, deformed looking, yet a gift of abundance. Free fresh chives to add to salad at no extra cost. My stone fingers a blessing too, of slower days, time, just being present. I am soft earth with the right to live peacefully. My rounded knuckles, curves of ice and foliage, pink and peach sunset lighting the snow, the hope of longer days, as the scent of cedar wafts up freshly cut, promising balance for the rest of the journey.
I think that's a really, Cynthia really, I like how she can embody, um, something that can't, I don't want to say anxiety is vague. That's not a good word, but something so sort of omnipresent, and it can feel very, all over the place and coming from nowhere. And Cynthia has a really good way of making it really physical as well, and really speaking to that anxiety that comes from um, anything health wise, anxiety, fear about health wise, and then how that exacerbates mental anxiety. So the next one I'm going to read is actually the one that sort of started this whole thing, if I remember. And this is a lot about how my anxious mind or the anxious mind works. And there's I read an article years ago that was about how there's it's actually like a scientific, like it's not just psychological, it's a scientific thing where about, middle of the night, 3, 4 a.m., if you're awake or you wake up, your brain, that's the worst time is when they call it, what they called was the garbage truck. Your brain will start thinking of all these really all your regrets and horrible things, and you said this and you did that, and there's something in your brain that makes that the absolute worst time. So but it's something that we all experience. So that is what this one is about. Okay. Excuse me. And so this one is called Confessions of My Troubled Mind. Okay. I confess to you in blackened night, whispers of thoughts lurking, slithering in dark corners, buried in deep cerebral closets amongst bones laden with stifling dust. All of our secrets, our shames that we cannot bear, the suffocating pressure as weighted stones sink down in supple soil to soon fix in place until I asphyxiate under the denseness that engulfs me, leaves me striving to breathe under the waterfall of self-judgment covering me like a prickly sheath. Those memories that keep me awake at night, myself and my mind, no escape in the stillness from them. They jeer, snarling and foaming at the mouth, like vicious dogs caged into submission, now hungry for blood, breaking free with held back resentment, lunging and snapping, tearing into flesh. This is my mind, I confess. My jangled mess of misfiring neurons that make me question who I really am. If my mind does not work, am I not real? Am I just a facade of a person wandering without clearly defined thoughts, honest actions, faking normalcy? Do I blame myself for a ruined life? Or what is my culpability if I am not truly sane? I feel anxiety that spreads throughout my chest, plunging deep into my belly in waves. I sit at the top of a roller coaster within my own body, my heart in my throat always, lurching up in uncomfortable strides of terror. There is no reason to panic, but the alarm rings constant, constant warning. But wait, yes, there is. My mind will find it. My mind will shove it to the forefront, all the reasons why I need to fear. I confess, I confess that these inner terrors have seemed so right, so truthful to me. They compel me to listen to their veracity, adamant that I do not disengage from them. My mind becomes the enemy manifesting in my existence, proving itself again and again. I confess there is no happiness here, just endurance. I confess that I have not been able to speak these thoughts out loud, bring them into reality, accept their consequences. So I confess to placate, not to erase. Thank you.
That's the poem that when I first heard Lara read it, I thought we should be writing poems from the edge. Um, that's just such a powerful, powerful piece. I think it's so important to talk about hidden anxiety and hidden stresses and hidden disabilities or differences that you know, aren't always, that we don't always get to see, or we don't always get to know what people are dealing with on their own and how strong they are to come through that. My next poem is one written about endometriosis, and it was written to an art display in the Jewish Community Center by Amy J. Dick, who was writing about her hidden disabilities. And she did it with a beauty and a softness that I really liked and could really relate to, at the same time as struggling with not having enough energy all the time. And I called this for everyone with no one to dedicate to. Because I was thinking about everyone dedicates their books to their kids. I'm like, oh, if I didn't get to have kids, who will I dedicate my book to? So it was a moment of a little bit of self-pity and a little bit of what it's like to live with endometriosis pain. For everyone with no one to dedicate to. A hysterectomy, the specialist advises. I fondle the silver links of my ancestry train, solid as cysts. Some amber and amethyst beads pause on Angularia, revered selenite moonstone magic. Where will my womb go? My desire to nurture children. Ropey tissue, the longest line out of me, where continuity is meant to emerge. Grandchildren to inherit memories. This overachieving uterus, fertile only with clots I pretend are infants, births fleshy tissue stones, sinewy strands of almost, intensifying endometriosis agony in the gravity of supermoons. Twins I dream as cramps sway with the pull of binary stars. Boy and girl babies I name. Sunflower and poppy potpourri made music. But when is it my turn to nurse lasting connection? I hold on to my womb, give my body more time to weave silk, pretend that fibroids are tiny fingers, new lives who press palms in my uterine wall, like the echoes of handprints from cave walls of Cuevo de las Manos, time travel to future dreams. And I'll just share one little thing. My godson said to me when he was 8, he was always like, "Can you have?" I was I was looking at adopting as well. He's like, "Can you adopt a boy my age? So I'll have someone to play with, and can you, like, if you adopt, I'll get to have a brother friend." And then he was like, I think one night I was tucking him in. He was still 8, and he was like, "But you have hundreds of kids, Auntie Cynthia, because of all the kids you teach." And I thought that was just so sweet that kind of cured it for me. Yeah, all the work we do in community and all the people in my life are my family and children too. And he was so wise, he fixed the problem for me in my mind and taught me to see differently. Right, no, hand back over to Lara.
That's really lovely. Thank you. And so the myths we were talking about too, with different, some of the physical things. Like I know I still have chronic regional pain syndrome and fibromyalgia, and it makes certain things. And one of the things that I had been doing some writing about was sort of some of the physical within the physical. So one of the ones was, say, I'm writing about, say, being in this particular poem is about having sex when you're in pain. And almost like to, at the time the endorphins are going, and sometimes it's like, suddenly it's afterwards, it's, yeah, I'm hurting for days. And so, but I wrote about thought about poem about thinking about um, at least being able to sort of look back on that experience and have that normal experience, and have, those memories as kind of a drug to help get through the bad days. So this one is called, I think I have it up already. I'm sorry. Yeah. Memories like morphine. Twisted tangled mass of wanting flesh, craving fulfillment, only to be satiated briefly before the next wave crashes over, erasing pure release, momentary release. Mixtures of love-making straight from a movie set intertwined with the aches and pains of reality, a reminder this is present life. This is not a story. Is that okay? He says. Yes, I breathe, knowing it's not true. Knowing there will be days of limitation, days of pain from each movement of passion, but that I don't care. I know I will lie still in those days with whispered thoughts of things I cannot say, remembering your touch, grasping at images, not knowing when our skin will meld once more, feeling my body's reminders of his touch, the memories like morphine. Thank you.
It's a powerful read. Um, where Lara's talking about the pain of the body, the pain of silencing women, I also extended that into a poem about the pain of missing my grandmother, the silencing of women, but also the silencing of the earth as women's voices are silenced under patriarchy. Kind of looking back at the past 6,000 years of patriarchy and how we have to undo that, how we have to come into balance again. I call this pyre with all the forest fires from intensified climate change, from our carbon dioxide emissions. It's also about my grandmother and missing her. Pyre, her love blazes in my life. Beloved grandmother, how I sacrificed for her desire until I stopped, recovered myself, went through flames to freedom, now on the other side of the country in wildfire. Eclipsed until masks burn away, until my voice is the only flame, then gone into earth. Phoenix we are not, but having spoken, our words remain. A singed orange sunrise, smothered behind a veil of smog. To speak in these dying days, parched tongues, charred paradigms, how you burn, controlled and uncontrolled, devastating, freeing, alive, open mouth, vernacular ripple, ring after ring unwound. Elephants stand still, burn alive, no longer believe they have strength to resist. Years of life disappear into oblivion as our planet heads to stardust, the pause before the next Big Bang. As the last fire goes out, we bury ourselves in words, wrap them around us for safety, sleep in handmade paper, breathe only nirvana. Sorrows of lost years dissipate, voice returns. After the fire that divided our earth, when jealous adults took too much, her candle extinguished. I listen for presence. Spirit and soil inhale as one, quiet quotidian sky. Goddesses abide as we invite them, fan the air around them, allow them to emerge within us. She who was everything, still with me. How she would prepare oatmeal each morning, lie beside me as I gently awoke, a communion of being, Ordinary Light. So that's the title poem from my book, Ordinary Light. And you can probably get the idea that returning to the simplicity of our great grandparents and grandparents is one of the balances I think we need to take on to tackle climate change, learning to appreciate the simplicity in every day. And I do want to claim there's a sad reference in there about elephants burning alive. There was a story in the news a while ago about a fire in a zoo where right, it was a zoo or a circus. I think it was a circus actually. And elephants used to be chained with, they would start off chaining them with huge chains that they couldn't resist. And then they would make the chain smaller and smaller and smaller until it was just a little piece of straw that the elephant could easily break. But the elephants had been psychologically trained to believe they couldn't escape. And there was a fire at a zoo where the elephants stood there and burned alive, even though they could have broken free from the straw thing that was holding their feet. And I put that in there because I feel like psychologically, I feel like sometimes as a human culture, where we're sort of given these myths that we can't escape the way capitalism is running currently, or we can't escape political climates. We can't escape destroying ourselves with climate collapse. And I think that's a myth. And I think that we're the elephants who could move if we wanted to. And so that was that's what that reference was from. Anyway, so back over to Laura.
That's an amazing story. And I love how you really mix that with the idea of capitalism and the really idea that, we are taught like, no, this is, you can't move or you can't get out. Or like you said, oh, well, climate change, people who are like, oh, well, it's happened through, it's part of the earth and big deal. And people are saying, no, it's a big deal, but people feel, it's like, what's the other one is the frog, where you put the frog in and let it boil and the frog, it doesn't realize that it's going on. But I like the elephant one quite a bit. Okay. So, um, now the next one I'm going to be reading about is, a lot of it is about the trauma from my personal experience. And this gets all mixed up into the physical as well as life goes on. Is it I mean, I grew up sort of like I was smaller than everyone, and I got bullied for that a lot, and I hate it. So I always grew up, took me to like, my 20s to start to feel a bit more confident with myself. But it was after quite a bit of trauma that I actually ended up in a couple of situations where I was being really bullied, like as an adult. And it was actually like this horrible time in my life. And it was kind of shocking to see people who were like, saw that as somebody like to victimize. That was easy. And so in this, and one of the frustrations is that what terrified me was seeing how, I couldn't get out of this situation. And then I was in two at once. And I finally got out of one situation, and you would think that most people would say like, okay, never again, I'm getting out of this other one. But I just let it like keep happening again. And it terrified me because it made me realize like, my upbringing has been like, that's what you do. Someone tells you what to do, you do it. Someone says something, you shut up. You have a different opinion, you don't say it. That person is right, and it just terrified me how much I just was like, bully me. And so this poem is about a lot of the frustration about continuing to let that happen, like not being able to learn that lesson even in the worst way possible. And just kind of the self-flagellation that comes with, um, the why didn't I's and the I knew. And yes, so this one is quite depressing, but it's what I wrote when I was it was really feeling at its worst. And it's called and I'm sorry, my one thing, the title came about because I was saying how like it's like I could keep getting hit over the head by a 2x4, but I would still, nothing's going to make me learn until I got hit by a 2x4 on the head. And so for this poem, the title that came out was The 2x4 Has Struck. Here once again, I am here once again. Trauma has not taught me well. Memories snap at my heels, reminders of weakness in the face of continued torment. Torment I accepted willingly, as life has made me feel I deserve. That family has drilled into my brain until it becomes my truth. How does a young child cope with never being praised, when happiness is blocked at every turn? Each moment of pride shot down with negativity and sarcasm, her views ridiculed, followed into adulthood that is not allowed to be. That small, vulnerable child forced to carry on being denied respect, denied boundaries, denied affection. I am only a second-class citizen. No right to demand that respect. That adult accepts the worst from others, accepts bullying with impunity, with never a word spoken in self-defense, repeated over and over, the face changing, but never the abuse. This is all she knows. No matter how many loving and supportive people enter her life, she must always have one who keeps her down, refuses her search for a peaceful life filled with good. Her lessons must be learned with a 2x4 to the head, and even then not fully learned. The realization of the psychological damage wreaked as she struggles with her already painful mind, her own grief. How constant bullying has created so much destruction, both subtle and outright. As growth towards a better life only increases the abuse, she is shoved back into shame and self-loathing. No right to any better. Destruction that must now be lived with forever, never to be fixed. As one who deliberately sabotaged, accepts no responsibility, they move on to have a perfect life handed on a silver platter. Life always rewards the wicked, it seems to her. As it begins again this time, she is ready to end the pattern, but still allows it without speaking out. But speaking out is not worth it. Toxicity always stays toxic. The realization that walking away is the only option, no longer trying to give more chances, no longer trying to ignore it as it worms its way deep into her psyche, no longer waiting for it to improve as she suffers. She is done. Thank you.
I love your strong ending that she is done.
So
I love
so
the
she
whole,
says in the so she says, but
but that's the strong voices coming out are so important. And I think that's such, as people are saying in the chat, it's such an important topic to be vulnerable. And I think out of that vulnerability comes strength. When Lara read that poem to me last night when we were preparing this, reminded me of a poem I have in Rainforest and Russet called Shadow Girl. I wash my hands till the cracks bleed, and my chip black nail polish vanishes. The pain we eloquently carry, too deep to be directly spoken, rises in luring rhythms, glacial rivulets. We bathe it in loquaciousness, make angel wings out of heartbreak, abuse, injustice, create feathers to lift ourselves from it, carving stories through fingertips. That poem, The Feathers, are pens to write out our stories and gain our voices. And hand back over to Lara.
yes. Did you have one more or did we?
Oh, I have one more, yeah.
Oh, okay. All right. So we were gonna do well, not really positive one, but um, So this last one I'm going to read is just a short one. And it's just more of, I guess one of the words in there is to soothe you. Thinking a lot about into this as also self-soothing. I'm sure a lot of people like I still do this actually where I rock myself if I get really anxious. It's almost like I do that. Um, I have to watch that am watching my anxiety level and all that. And it can be very hard because obviously when you are in pain or some have a health issue, you're obviously not going to be a happy in a good mood. But, then of course you don't want to get really even more anxious because then it's going to make it harder, to handle the pain. So it's sort of in this loop. And so this is just a really short poem just about, trying to soothe that anxiety. And it's called Into My Heart. Come into my heart. Envelop yourself in my beating drum of endless love. Feel my warmth spread over your body and touch your very core. Come into my world. Let me lead you to my hidden dreams and carry you through the fears that keep you awake at night, listening to the sounds of your heart trying to steady but skipping beats with each worry that creases your brow and ages you slowly. Come into my soul. Here I will comfort you, sparing nothing to heal you, deepen your desire to be one, to sink into my breast and let me soothe you, let me love you. Come into my heart.
I remember now, I was maybe going to read, maybe going to end on that one, and I was going to read this one earlier, but I'm going to read it now
Yeah.
because Lara put us in such a beautiful peace of mind.
No, no, I
But The Alchemy of a Heartbeat, we're going back to fire and the um, climate situation. And I wrote this poem kind of thinking of us like the Titanic, like we're in the last few hours of the Titanic, and I don't think we have to be. I think we're the elephants who can break free and fight this and resist. But as I was writing this poem, though, when the sky was filling with smoke, the couple of times that we were covered in smoke from intensifying forest fires, I was thinking about how it feels like we're on a Titanic. So a lot of the imagery is from the Titanic, how they're listening to autumnal hymns and things. And my mentor at Goddard was Juliana Spard, the incredible echo poet, and she introduced me to the writer Bernadette Mayer. And I found this line from Bernadette Mayer as an epigram that I really like. I know backwards the grief of life like chance from Midwinter Day by Bernadette Mayer. This is the alchemy of a heartbeat. As the outdoors fills with smoke, our duplex sways with autumnal hymns. My 86-year-old neighbor turns up the record to waltz with the ghost of her husband. I am lifted in overtures, limbs limber in body memory, slippers shuffling pirouettes. Our minds synchronize with violin symphonies while our lungs become earth. Mount Vesuvius took Pompeii all at once in 79 AD, but we go slowly at first, more fire and tar each summer, pummeling ourselves with pollutants. People of ancient Pompeii didn't know they lived near an active volcano, that an earthquake 17 years prior and tremors in the ground as magma gurgled forth were warnings. So they didn't take action to save themselves from that noon August 24th heat wave. But we know that carbon dioxide emissions intensify climate change, that every war traps fever in the atmosphere until forests spontaneously burn longer and harder each year, emitting more carbon dioxide of their own, where once they turned it to oxygen for us. Now conifers burst into flame with the incandescence of the shared biosphere, crackle and sputter like a dry bronchial cough, flame soaring through sky like the fiery wings of a thirsty phoenix, dehydrated from tears held back. While manufacturers ignore the correlation, slow on the urgency required to reach carbon neutral. We are all us and them, mourning victim and remorseful perpetrator of environmental imbalance. Ash fills us, and we dance. The last few hours on this West Coast Titanic, closing our windows to the once liberating ocean breeze, now smothered in smog. Friday, August 13th, 2021, and Sunday, September 11th, 2022, the worst air quality on Earth in Vancouver. Purple, we called the respiratory threat, then maroon, like a contusion, making indexes to categorize it instead of laws to halt it. The world still fossil fuel addicted, my cough worsening. At night we grieve the demise of our home and bodies to preventable destruction. This one planet, one Cascadia, one set of lungs. Like the noble Pliny, who rescued as many citizens as he could from ancient Pompeii, then died on the beach of asphyxiation. I wonder how long our cardiovascular systems have to struggle against pulmonary inflammation from fine particle inhalation. This year, the damage, a lifetime of perfect blood pressure, altered to stage 1 hypertension, the equivalent of 8 cigarettes a day, my pulse in my throat, arteries chewed up, what we call fine, above the deadly amount of fine particles anyone should inhale. Oh, sea air, how I long for your soothing ions to be enough, to unfuel the fires and dissolve the cults of climate ignorance. Breathe us back to the wisdom of simplicity and restore our heartbeat to your natural rhythm. In the ascension of morning from prayerful branches, the arabesque and reveille of perseverance in the oak out my window, where yellow leaves rustle in wind, and let the aroma of elderberries overpower gas fumes. The scent of earth rises when noise ceases, and all that still is thrums through. So I meant to read that harder hitting one in the middle, but I really do believe we're the elephants held only by a straw who can move ourselves and take control. And that's what we need to do. Thank you for
Oh,
listening
thank
to all of my
you.
poems.
That was a great one to end on. Yeah, that was I like how you I like Cynthia's very good at taking I'm much better sort of sometime on the um you get more into really the physicality of things. You intertwine those so well between the two. I find that it works. I think we're a good pair. We work well together. Okay,
I
Lara.
love getting to do that. And I think we have time for questions from the audience.
Yeah.